right. Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Fantasy Take TV podcast. We're going to be doing these through the finals. So, first week of finals starts, and we'll get round to the boys and see what the thoughts are. We'll go through the tips. We'll go through our teams for the finals fantasy that Moreira's Magic is doing as well. The boys will have to help me through there because they played that game all year. I didn't. And then at the end, we're also looking at the player awards as well. That night was last week on Wednesday. We'll go through the AA team, maybe talk a bit about some of the other awards as well. But around the room, boys, how are you? JD, what'd you do on the weekend off, mate? What'd you get up to?
Well, weekend off. I mean, it was mainly family stuff, but I watched a little bit of AFLW, watched Essendon's first game, which was good to see the girls get a win. It was nice, something I haven't experienced too much this year, so they're already impressing me a lot. Showed a lot of hard-nosed edge to their game that the men's team lacks. So that was nice. And started to turn my focus towards NFL, which will be probably the main squeeze for the off-season, so starting to do a little bit of research on my picks. I feel very underprepared still. It's like 1 week until the season starts, and a lot of the drafts have to be done, and I haven't done enough research. So yeah,
I know there's so much you need to know with NFL too, with just player movement, injuries, like roles in the team, all that stuff. It changes all the time. So yeah, I'm probably with you. I need to look at that, but haven't had too much time. George, what are you doing, mate? And where the hell are you?
I don't know. I have no idea where I am. I'm about 45 minutes away from home, which means I'm about hour 15 away from work. So that'll be fun getting up tomorrow morning. I just house sitting for a colleague. They have 2 dogs. So I do apologize if they bark because they've been doing a lot of that today. But yeah, no computer. So just nice week to myself. So very nice house here. So very happy at the moment.
No worries. So I think the first thing we'll talk about is the player awards. That was almost a week ago. The AA team, George was tweeting out, hoping that Tommy Stewart would make it and Sicily would get in. And look, I think Sicily is very stiff not to get in, but we'll bring it up. We'll see what the boys think. I'll get it on screen. So from the back line, Tommy Stewart, Stephen May, Braden Maynard made it, which was a little bit of a surprise, but I think they wanted some Collingwood representation. And look, he's a great player, but maybe not the whole season that he performed for. But yeah, I still think he does deserve it to an extent. Sinclair definitely, Sam Taylor, Adam Sard, Tuke Miller, Clayton Oliver, Callum Mills, Maxi Gawn in the ruck, Patrick Cripps, the vice captain as well, and Lockie Neal. The forward line track, that was always a lock on the forward flank. Jeremy Cameron, Shea Bolton, Charlie Curnow, Tom Hawkins, and Tyson Stengel. It's good to see him get in with a good year. It's probably the best small forward. And then Blitzarves on the bench, Brayshaw, Heaney, and Connor Rosie made it as well, which is good to see. Had a pretty good second half of the year. So first one, JD, what stands out to you? Who missed it? I mean, I think Sicily's the clear one. Maybe someone other than him. And then who are you happy that you see there as well? What name you happy you see?
So I'll just start by saying, I actually echoed George's sentiment. I think Stewart getting in over Sicily is probably a bit stiff, to be honest. And I just given that the game Stewart missed, and also he had pretty poor form in the back end of the year. I get it's one of those things that once you're in, it's kind of you own the spot unless someone displaces you, and maybe no one was that good. But I don't know. I think I would have had others above Stewart just given the games missed this year. His peak was obviously right up there, but just I didn't see it for long enough. If I'm not going to go with Sicily, I think there's a few options that I would see is like a bit stiff. Maybe I'll go Wits as the one that I think is a little bit rough. They've done 2 rucks most years, decided this year not to do 2 rucks. And of the pure tap ruckman, Wits was clearly number 1 for the year. So maybe a little bit hard done by. He also had a really good comeback story. Both him and kind of, Doherty, I guess to a lesser extent, got where's the theatre?
Yeah.
Theatre of it. But there were a few I think that were a bit tough. But yeah, Wits is one I could have seen getting in.
Jordan, what do you think?
Yeah, just embarrassing really on Sicily. he should have got in. I mean, I don't think the selectors take it too seriously, or seriously enough. I think it's just Tommy Stewart, great player. Reputation is more important than output. I don't think they watched many Hawthorn games for the year. I mean, 20 points clear in the coaches' votes of all defenders. You can look at like Champ and Dud and all that, clear number one. Some people don't care about that. That's fine. Coaches' votes are usually a pretty good indicator. Plays tall, plays small, can play loose, although that's probably his best position. He rarely played that. Kept Tom Lynch quiet when he rotated on him when he kicked 8 goals, although I think he may have got injured later in that. But yeah, I think like Jared Waitley said, Tom Stewart's the third key position player. And I said, what? He's not. Am I missing something here? Very rarely see him play key position. So I think that's just really, really, really bad call by the selectors. And yeah, Sicily had an amazing year. Look, he lost a few one-on-ones here and there, but he should have been in. Probably still annoyed about that. And then who else? I think Woods probably could have been on the bench. Yeah, I think Laird. The problem with the whole AA selectors is, okay, Sydney are top 4. Okay, they got one player is probably not enough, apart from Collingwood, who had no standouts. So, Maynard doesn't play for Collingwood. He's not in. Mills doesn't play for Sydney. Mills was borderline. If Laird played for Sydney, he'd be lock on field. So I think that they wait too much towards the team that they play for. I mean, Geelong 5 players. Fair enough, 5 players, but Lynch probably should have been in over Hawkins. I mean, the whole captaincy to Hawkins. I'm not too like that's fair enough. I get it. I mean, Hawkins is known to use his elbows to get suspended in finals. He's been suspended a lot of times. I'm not sure how you'd want Hawkins captain over Tuke Miller. I thought Tuke was just so obvious of a pick for captain, but they use a different criteria, so it's whatever. But yeah, I think Laird is biased. Laird's probably biased. But I think Sicily was just embarrassing. Apologies for that, but yeah.
Right. Even the dogs knows George's takes have gone south.
Well, the captaincy's a bit whatever. Like that's just a lifetime achievement award.
Yeah.
They've given it to like Buddy and Rance and stuff. Blokes that aren't even captains or never been captains. So
I think,
but yeah, they always do that. 5 players from the top team, JD. They always do that.
They do. I thought one that another one I thought that was stiff was Bont. I probably would have had him in over like Petrarca or someone like that. I don't know if that's a hot take or not. I just thought once again, like Bont's impact on the game this year was probably more than most of the midfielders they ended up picking, but seems to get punished for not racking up disposals. But when you look at things like score involvements, goals, he's the number 1 midfielder in that competition. He actually spent a lot of time half forward, where I think Petrarca spent most of the year in the midfield and maybe a few rounds at the end up front. So I don't know. I would have maybe had Bont over him, but there's probably a few players that I might have picked Bont over. But yeah, that's another one I thought that was a bit stiff to miss out.
Yeah,
Well, I think
the dogs they're affected by the expectations probably. George that they just made finals. Sorry, Bont's got like massive standards for him. So I don't know.
Yeah, victim of his own standards, I think. I mean, he did everything. Like he kicked. I think first 15 games he kicked 14 goals, and I know he played forward, but played a lot mid too. But he played a bit injured throughout the year. Didn't really had a few massive games, but not as many as last year. So, given they probably needed to put one Bulldog in, given that's what they do, put a team from finals. If your team's playing finals, you should have at least a player in, but apparently not for the Dogs. So I think, maybe they could have fit one in based on what they've been doing, but he's got 3 already. I think he was kind of borderline anyway, but I thought that he had an underrated season. And probably the other one, I think Petrarca, I think this was the year to put him in the midfield. There was just so many good forwards, like Heaney on the bench. I think he should be on field. Unbelievable start to the year, and then post-bye was unbelievable as well. Just kicks 2 or 3 every week. Yeah. So... And his numbers, he still gets up the field, starts on a wing sometimes, runs up the ground half forward, takes the big marks, clutch player as well. Like when Sydney are in trouble, Heaney will take a big grab somewhere around the ground and, give him a bit of momentum. So I think that's something that David King was saying. I think it was Kane Corns actually was saying, they factor in those sort of things. So probably part of the reason why Maynard got in. So, I thought maybe Heaney on field, but it's kind of nitpicking. Doesn't really matter too much on field or not.
I think I said it last week. That was always going to happen with blitz halves on the bench because he's the second ruck, he's the 7th defender, and it was just sort of an easy way out to fit in more midfielders. I could see why they've done it. now, because usually there'd be a seventh defender in one of those spots as well as two rucks like JD was saying. Instead, Blitz halves is that player, and then they can get Brayshaw, Heaney, and they can get Rosie on the bench. Get that extra midfield forward type there. So I thought that was so obvious they were going to do that, and they did.
Heaney and Shea can play the half forward just fine.
Yeah,
instead of track. So I don't know. Could have put him in.
You can only pick 22 players. What did you think about? They were saying they were going to do the second team, and they ended up not. Like, was that something you'd get around, or?
Nah.
We said in every other sport, 3 All NBA teams, all that sort of stuff.
I think
too many players.
They might just say that they've made the squad and that's it. Like made the AA squad.
Maybe this is unpopular. I don't care enough about All Australian as it is. I just don't care enough. It's not picked well. Like, there's no wings. It's just I mean, at least they've somewhat got some small defenders and forwards this year, but like even the small defender side, it's just biased towards attacking one. No one on the defensive side. So whatever. I don't really care.
We'll quickly mention, I guess, Clayton Oliver and Tuke Miller got there in the end with the coaches' votes. So he got there in the end. They tied, which is good to see. Tuke being rewarded for his hard work and commitment to the Suns. They definitely need a guy like him to fully be bought in, which he is for sure. Brayshaw, the Players Association, that was a little bit of a surprise. I thought Clary would probably take that out or someone like that. Maybe a Jezza Cameron, because he's just so valuable. But Brayshaw, that was a bit not left field. But look, he had a great year. But how serious do the players take the vote? That's probably the other thing. You boys got anything to say on those two?
It's hard to go against the players. They're the ones out there watching him, so they must be, really, really impressed with Andy. So I think, he had a great season though. So it's hard to, I don't know how you can make it. Like, for me, Oliver probably would have been the one. But I don't really have too much of a problem if they voted Andy in. So he's a great player this year. Had some huge halves as well, just lifted the team. So he had a good year, so it's okay, fair enough.
The one thing I would say, I'm sure you've seen some of the Brownlow stuff where it's like you look at like contested disposals, clearances, these types of things, and Andy just ranks well down on the list. It's really in the disposals he's up there with some of the others, like a Oliver or a Neil or something like that. So on a lot of the stuff we tend to care about for mids, he didn't rank as high. There's been some conspiracy theories that with West Coast and Melbourne having Brayshaw ties, he's got other clubs pulling for him, which helps him get over the line on these things. But I mean, which I totally could believe, but I've got no problems with Brayshaw winning it.
Well, he's more of an outside player, and then those sort of awards reward, like, that's why Libba is so high, because it's just a lot of his contested rate is so high. Probably why Jack Steele fell. Well, one thing we'll probably talk about next year for Supercoach, Jack Steele's contested rate is much lower this year than last year, so maybe why that he wasn't tracking for that 125 plus season again. But again, Brayshaw, last year, I can't remember this year, but he started on the wing a lot. Had Chera back there, so more outside ball, a lot of disposals, like marks at halfback and stuff. They don't really count for anything. So maybe that's why he's a bit lower. But still, I think he had a great season.
I'll just mention the others. Dacos Rising Star. We probably don't need to mention or talk about that one too much. And then it was like Pendle's best captain and Liam Baker was most courageous. And then Kerno, Coleman medal. But we'll move on to the good stuff. I think everyone, what we want to talk about, and that's the finals. Here's the setup or the screen grab from the AFL website. We're just going to talk about the 4 games this week. Maybe give a loose tip of the flag. Put it on. Put it down right now so we can, if one of us gets it right, we can come back to it and claim it. But first game, Richmond, Brisbane. We'll just do it in order of when they're being played up at the Gabba on Thursday night. News today, Dusty is all but pretty much certain to play. Got through a match simulation. Lynch is all good to go. Cumberland's good to go because I think he had an injury scare last week as well. And then Grimes is back running, but they said he won't really be back unless they make a grand final. Brisbane side of things, Rayner was unsuccessful. Ainsworth is out as well, so a couple of outs for them. Did I see an article? Darcy Wilmot might be getting a debut in the final. Is that fully confirmed, or still maybe a shout? Yeah,
I think they said they're considering it, but nothing confirmed.
What are your thoughts, boys, on how this one's going to play out?
Brisbane versus Richmond. I'm very worried for Brisbane. I think just the history of not just the performance in finals, but the past 2 months they've been giving up big leads in fourth quarters all the time. They have not run out games well at all. The defense has been leaking a lot of points. I don't think their tall forwards have been playing very well. Joe Hipwood McStay a bit hit and miss this year, or certainly in the back half of the year. So I think they should get on top of the midfield. I think McLuggage has been playing quite well in there. Neil should have a great game, you'd think. And they need Bailey to kick 4, I think. So I think a lot needs to go right for Brisbane, but I think they're definitely capable. And then Richmond, well, what can you say? They've been scoring so heavily. Like, do they rely on, I don't know, you're the one for Richmond, but it feels like they rely a little bit on Lynch at the moment. I know, like, Shea's been bobbing up. I think Jack's kicked bags on Brisbane. I think I read somewhere like 10 plus goals over the past 3 games or something. So do they need, like, Lynch to have a massive game to take over? So I don't know. What do you think? How are you feeling about that game, Anna?
Just based off Brisbane's form, it feels like everyone's tipping us now, but they can have their days, and if they get it all right, they can definitely go nuclear. They've got one of the best attacks in the league. It's just I don't know. Their tall forwards have been real hit and miss lately. Like Joey Danaher hasn't fired a shot in a while. Hipwood just doesn't seem like he's doing much. But it's definitely where they can get us, because whilst our attack's really good, I think we finished the season the most points for, but the defense isn't as good as it used to be in years gone past. It's like I don't even think it's top 8. So that's somewhere they can get us, because that's probably their strength is their attack. So it could be a shootout. Who knows? Could be a big shootout, which pretty much what the last matchup was a few weeks ago. So I'm confident to an extent, but I still think they can definitely get us. And at home, that always helps.
Another one is the half. I was going to say just the halfbacks. I've watched Rich and Coleman this year. I think Coleman needs to have a really big game, because Rich just bombs it. A bit like Brodie Smith for the Crows. Doesn't seem like they're very effective, or they're not as effective as they used to be. If they keep bombing it and then the ball goes to deck, it's probably in favour of Richmond a lot. So I think they need Coleman to have a big game, be a bit creative off halfback, make some plays for him. So, but yeah, he's been pretty good for the most of the year. But I think he finished the year a bit slow. But see how he goes.
Yeah, it's interesting because the round 20 matchup between the Tigers and the Lions. Tigers won by 7 points, and it was a shootout. There's lots of players that scored really high totals, and so while we talk about like Hipwood and Danaher, like haven't been
they cut us up.
in
they
particular
absolutely
form.
cut us
Yeah,
up.
Hipwood kicked 4-3. Danaher kicked 3 goals in the first quarter and then disappeared. And the Lions have a couple of things working for them. So they have Zach Bailey hopefully playing the whole game this time, where he was subbed out in Q2 last time. And there's another big inclusion that I can't think of at the moment. Oh, who is it? Oh, Rich. Rich wasn't playing last time for them. It was just Coleman. So I think those are 2 pretty big ends. On the Tigers side, you had Bolton go 2-5. So if he was more accurate, maybe that was a little bit of an easier win. But you then had Lynch kicking 4. You had Cumberland kicking 5, which you'd think is overs for a repeat effort. I think Grimes was injured that game early as well. So it's not like that'll. Oh no, wait, sorry, it was Q3. But yeah, like you still don't have Grimes this time. So it's not a massive thing. I think like this one does shape up as a shootout, just because forward lines seem to be better than the defenses for both teams. But I do like Tigers in this one. If I was to pick an upset of any of the matches, I think this would be the one that I'd pick. And it's probably for some of the reasons George said. Lions just haven't really shown that they're made of it when it comes to finals. And given what happened in the last round with the faux toughness and the sledging and all that type of stuff, to me, they just don't feel like the type of group that galvanizes around that. And conversely, I think Tigers have played into really good form in the last month. So yeah, I'm on the Tiger train for week 1.
Well, we're favourite now. We keep coming in, so I think we're $1.60 something with the bookies now. So
Really?
no one.
Oh,
they don't-
wow,
That's coming
really?
a lot.
I know,
Okay.
I know. It opened like
That's-
$1.90, I think, or something
Yeah.
like that. But yeah, we just keep coming in and in as the
It's not even an
as
upset.
the
I'm
days
tipping.
go by.
Okay.
So it's not. No,
Okay.
I had to put you up on that because it ain't an upset anymore.
Fair enough.
So I don't know if I like
What's
that.
what's the line?
Let me check for you. It is a goal, like 5.5 for Richmond. So
Fair.
yeah. All right, we'll move on to the next game, and that's a big one. Melbourne Sydney. It's probably the most. Look, obviously every final is big, but this one has the most probably implications on the flag. The team obviously gets the home prelim, but they also get the easy side of the draw. I mean, I'm assuming Collingwood loses. That obviously isn't set in stone, but they get that side with the Dockers and the Dogs, as opposed to the other side. So big game for both teams. Sydney did get Melbourne there early in this year at the G, so they'll have a bit of confidence from that. Just a big game. What do you boys think for that, JD? We'll go to you first for this one.
Yeah, so this is once again one where like I'd back in the form. So Melbourne found really good form towards the end of the year. I think their rucks are obviously a big problem and something gone, and Jackson can take advantage of. With Jackson, he should be back from that calf and being able to play. I think the move with Brayshaw into the midfield has given them a lot of extra flexibility. Now with Petrarca being able to be more readily a threat up forward, helps balance them out. So I can't see why this wouldn't be a Melbourne win, to be honest. The Swans' younger core have definitely had better games where they can stand up with some of the best. But I just think when it comes to finals, Melbourne's done it before. They've got the experience side. They've hit form. I think that'd be my tip for this one.
BC, George?
This is a tough game. Certainly, I think the loser probably plays Richmond if they get up. So probably had all those teams, probably the top 4 teams for the finals. But
Quickly, I guess I'll say
It's-
the odds for all the games. Melbourne $1.47 to Sydney $2.68, and the line's a couple of goals for Melbourne's direction.
Sydney are very good in the midfield, so maybe they can neutralise that a bit. Maybe they can send Callum to an Oliver or something. Or Callum can kind of plug and play, put him anywhere. I think with Melbourne, I don't know. I think they need the midfield on top. I think the forwards, they've had issues with their forward line for sure this year. Like their tall forwards is unreliable. I think Tom McDonald played VFL, but probably won't play.
Yep.
I think Melksham kicked the bag the other day. So I think, and Ben Brown as well. They got good key defenders out there. The 2 McCartan boys. So if they can hold them down, maybe limit Melbourne's scoring a bit and then get them on the turnover. I think Sydney are a decent chance. I'm not sure I'll tip them. Probably tip Melbourne, but just because at home. In Sydney, I'd tip Sydney. But Sydney did beat them this year.
Yep.
I think it was like 10 weeks ago or something. Maybe
It was
less than
back
that.
in round 12. Yeah, back in round 12. That was the game where Gorn went huge. He had like 200 super coach because they didn't have a ruck from memory. It was like Laddams or something like that.
Yeah. See him get suspended in the VFL.
Yeah. That was
He's an idiot.
shocking. That was
He's
shocking.
an idiot.
So one thing that has changed since then that might be worth talking about is obviously Ryan Clark coming into the side as a tagger in the forward half. Who do you think he goes to on the Melbourne side? I mean, I think what Salem's meant to be
Salem's
playing.
back, right? So
Yeah.
I guess he's the one you go to.
Otherwise, I think the big call out from when they last played is that there was no Stephen May. And that side looks completely different when May is down there in defence. It just seems to free up everyone and everything a lot better. Would you entertain the idea? I know it's a weird matchup, but putting Clark to someone like May?
I don't know just how that works.
Yeah, I don't know.
Structurally,
I mean, they were going to
teams
do it with
have done it.
Himmelberg, right? They were going to do it with Himmelberg.
Yeah.
Himmelberg
we saw the
plays
Saints do it
flank
to
more.
Stewart, but it's a fullback,
Stewart's
not like
a flanker too.
intercepting.
Yeah.
It's I don't know.
Can he be used in the midfield? It's probably a waste of a midfield slot because they want Warner in there. They want Parker in there. So I don't know.
I wouldn't be starting him in the midfield.
Who's because they played Gus most of the year down back. Now he's a midfielder. So do they send him to half forward, put him on Petrarca, or does he play halfback and go to Petrarca or something?
Or do they send him to Eddie Langdon? That's probably the next one.
Yeah, I think that's a good call.
I was about to say Jaden Hunt because he's probably the one that provides the dash off halfback, but Eddie on the wing. Can Ryan Clark go with him? I don't know.
Tigers usually have pretty big tanks, so maybe.
Who's
for
the
me,
matchup for Buddy?
Oh,
Be Tom McCartan, I reckon.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
No, not Tom McCartan. May.
yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's May for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was with JD. I'm tipping the D's just based off the form. I mean, how much you can take away from beating Brisbane, not sure because they're just being really poor. But it looked like they got their good footy back and mojo back last week. So I'll back that in for this week. And then if the Swans somehow get up, and the Tigers get up, Melbourne's probably the number one team. I just don't want to play. I don't think the Tigers can beat them. I don't think we have for a couple of years. So they always pump us. So I still think for me, D's are probably my tip for the flag. So if they are, I'm tipping them to get up in this game. The big one, 4:30 Saturday afternoon footy at the G. What do we think about that time slot? Firstly, there was a bit of uproar about it when it came out. Is it the worst thing in the world? I don't think it's terrible. The prelim in 2017 to have another Richmond reference was the Richmond Giants game, and that was at that time slot, and I thought that was awesome. But that's probably because it was 90 plus Richmond fans. But I think it's going to be packed house. I don't mind the time slot. What do you guys think?
Don't care.
I mean,
you don't go to the games though, George.
we got 4 games in 4 days. Why
does anyone care?
Why is there 2 on the Saturday instead of a game on Sunday? Is probably the thing that I care about more than
Sundays.
The time slot.
I think Sunday's like a gutter time slot.
I looked and I'm like, one year they do a Sunday in the first week. One year before they didn't. Year before that they did. I don't know. They just decide chop and change. Anyway, the game itself. Cats are $1.43, Pies $2.87, and the line again is a couple of goals the Cats way. I just think the biggest question is, are the Cats, can they actually get it done this year? I mean, everything points towards them winning the flag just because of how well they've played, clear on top of the ladder, attack and defense. They're like both top 2 or 3 in that area. They just don't look like letting up at the moment, but finals, as we've seen, has been a different beast for them. Do we think they just get the job done against the Pies this week? JD, what do you think?
Yep, I've got the Cats for this one for sure. I really like what I've seen from them this year. I think they're the most well-rounded they've been in the last few years. I mean, while we meme about them making finals and then exiting out, I think the big difference is what you see in the bottom end of the list. And it's probably been the criticism of Geelong and their strategy with recruiting older players. You don't have any youth coming through. But we've actually seen a fair few guys step up at that lower end. Like DeConning, obviously, from a Supercoach perspective, but we also saw Atkins' game go to a new level, which is George's old flame, and then players like Max Holmes as well stand up. So I think the big improvement for me for Geelong has been the bottom end of their list has really actually taken a step up, which has helped a lot. And they've been able to manage the ruck situation better than they have in previous years as well. Even though it still looks like a bit of a disaster from the outside, I think the way they've handled that is really good. And then I think the other thing that's been quite an interesting move is how they've used blitz this year to tag. What's kind of interesting for me is there isn't an obvious matchup for him in the midfield. I don't think there's anyone in Collingwood's midfield you'd use him to tag. So whether he goes into defense and helps with the resting ruck or what the strategy is there, I think that's going to be an interesting tactical move. But yeah, I'm all over the Cats for this game. I think the other thing is one of the positional advantages I've seen for Collingwood, and maybe I'm wrong on this one, but they seem to be quite strong on the outside using their wings. Dacos was obviously in the AA44 squad. I love how I'm using this as a point to bolster my thing, even though I just talked about how I don't believe in the AA squad. But anyway, so Dacos, and their wings in general have been pretty good this year. That Alphabet Stadium doesn't really have place for wings. You kind of just have to play up and down the ground, which benefits.
It's at the G, isn't it?
Wait, is it? Oh,
yeah.
Is it at the G? Even though it's still on.
They're doing renovations at the.
Oh, okay. Well then, Okay.
Come on, JD. What the fuck?
Yeah, I thought it was just yeah, no, never mind. I don't know where my head's at tonight. Okay, well then disregard that last point, but I'm still all over the Cats.
George?
Well, I think Geelong are probably the most overrated organisation in sports at the moment. The amount of frothing is just out of control. I think this year the list is better. I think a fit Cameron, Stengel, SDK down back. I think the ball movement is much more fluid through the ground. So they take on the corridor a lot more, I've noticed. So I think they really should win, but I think Collingwood, they got a bit more dog in them than Geelong. And I think, Chris Scott made comments such as, like, he always makes weird comments at the detriment of his team. He said, well, I think top spot in the home and away season should be celebrated more. Like, why would you say that?
What do you want?
Yeah, exactly. What
do you
want?
actually want?
So I think that probably hurts the psyche a bit. Obviously, I'm like half serious, but
isn't that a big like EPL thing? Finishing top of the table?
Yeah, because you win the league.
Win the title. That's what it is. There's no finals.
There you go.
So,
I mean, you can see where he's coming from.
But yeah, I think they're a much better team. I think.
What do you want? A little like banner to hang up or something?
I think Dangerfield has such a high ceiling, and even though historically in the finals he uses the ball very poorly, he can still. They don't have a matchup for him in the middle unless they sit Pendlebury on him. So I would honestly, if Danger starts in the middle, which I expect he will, I would sit Pendlebury on him and just not let the Cats get away from him because he can dominate clearances. Because I mean, the Collingwood midfield, Adams is a bit underdone. I think they were running Finlay McRae in there due to injuries. So
is Adams even a certainty to get up?
I was watching the news tonight, but he's saying unless something happens. Yeah. No, he said he will play unless something happens during the week, so he'll play.
So I think to your point, he's coming in underdone, and that's the I think they're going to get beat pretty badly in the midfield.
I think Geelong's midfield is probably the one place where you can get a bit of an advantage over them.
They've been good the last few weeks in there.
I think you see Guthrie spread, and like when they get it in their forward 50 and in the air or on the deck, you're in trouble. So I think they got their work cut out for them, the Collingwood defence. So it's going to be tough. And I think Carlton's midfield, they don't, Paddy Cripps would get nearly 30 contested disposals or something. I don't think anyone can do that.
In 3 quarters.
Maybe Danger, but Danger's not Danger. Yeah. But get off a rest, he could be. So I think I'd be wary of Danger. I don't think they need to tag anybody. I don't think Collingwood even tag in the first place, but they got Dacos back there. He seems like someone that's completely built for this. His composure is the best I've ever seen for a player of his age. So I think it'll be a competitive match. And I don't know if you guys remember, round 3 they played. Now, Geelong were still learning the new game plan at this point. Yeah. But they were up by 5 goals, I think, and they ended up losing right at the death. So...
Yeah. Who? Oh, Pies did.
Pies were
5 goals up, yeah. So it'll be interesting. I think Pies have been, what's their average winning margin? Like, it's under 10 points. And then Geelong's average winning margin in the past, I think post-bye, is 40 points or 39 points or something.
So if it's what you're saying, if it's close again, you just back Collingwood because they've been in those situations for 3 months. But
yeah.
I just don't think it is close towards the end. So
one thing that is a little bit underrated is Geelong have a lot of experience with stuffing up buys. So I think they should be in a good place to not do that this time. And they were also able to manage a lot of their key players in the back half of the year. So their list should be relatively ready and refreshed for this game, where I think, Pies have been at the other end. They've been in multiple months of close games. And I just don't think you can do that for forever. I still laugh that they beat Carlton. That shouldn't have happened. It just shouldn't have happened. And I think against a better side like the Cats, you won't see it happen.
Yeah, I'm going the Cats. I think they're across the ground that they're better than Collingwood in every area. It's just that thing in the back of your mind of watching them not get it done year after year. But I think that might be later on in the finals. Whether if they play like the D's or Swans in a granny, I think I'd tip against them. But for this week, I'll tip them against the Pies.
Do you know Geelong's record in qualifying finals since the grand final?
Just finals.
Since they won?
Yeah,
I'm not sure, but they're 1-8, and they beat Hawthorn.
Have they played
2 points?
A team like Collingwood in any of those qualifying finals that have just over 100% and won 10 games by a goal. And yeah, so every team they've played in those qualifying finals have been legit. I'm not saying Collingwood aren't legit. I'm just saying they don't have as much firepower. But they have the dog, like you said. They've got the dog.
I think it comes back to this is I think the best Geelong's looked in any of those previous years as well.
Yeah,
that's fair
make it all the more comical if they weren't able to at least go deep.
For sure.
The last game. So Freo at home against the Dogs, which I just saw as well today. That's sold out. So that'll be rocking for the Dockers. $1.49 as well. So yeah, pretty much not clear favourites, but if most of the teams this week are pretty convincing favourites in their games. What do we think for this one? I think it's hard to trust either of these teams. Like I think I trust Freo more just because of the whole season of what they've produced, and it's been quite impressive because I don't think anyone saw them. They're pretty much half a game off top four. But the Dogs, we know what they can do, and they showed it. The last couple of years, get on a roll, and they can really, pump out big scores and absolutely annihilate teams. But will they do that this year? I don't know. How do you guys see this one? George, start with you.
Oh, I love the Doggies. They haven't been great this year. I think Sam Darcy makes a big difference, taking those big grabs up forward. Whereas Jamara's probably been a bit up and down, but he's a young player, it's fair enough. But Sam Darcy's just been consistently competing in the air and winning one-on-one. So I think he's going to be very important, but they might need him down back, but we'll see. Bontempelli's going to be fully fit. He said he's raring to go, I think, something like that. We saw last time. So last time they played, the Dogs won the midfield battle quite easily. But what happened, I think Luke Ryan scored 150 or something. But this happens every time against the Dogs. They let you control the footy down back for two reasons. One, they bomb it in too much. And two, have you seen how they back off the mark?
Yeah. They let you just chip around, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what do you think James Sicily did? He took the most marks he'd ever taken, I think. Yeah. So
19, some shit.
Mate, I think Freo got him last time, and I think Freo should. Yeah, I feel like that game. I didn't think the Dogs had much of a chance. I don't know. I feel like Fremantle were just holding a lead the whole game, and the Dogs couldn't get him.
That was a game. Rory Lobb was dobbing them from the first row of the stands. Like he was kicking them from ridiculous angles, and they won by a couple of goals. I think the Dogs are a chance, but I guess over there isn't in their favour.
I think maybe a few cleaner entries and they can get them. They'll win the midfield battle. Just can they be efficient going forward? And I don't know if they can be. Fremantle's defense has held up pretty well. I'll tip the Dogs just because I like the Dogs, but I reckon I'll be 0 from 4 the way I've been tipping. It's more hard overhead, but I'll go the Dogs. But really, Freo should get up. What do you reckon, JD?
Yeah, I think this is a Freo pick for mine. From the fantasy perspective, which I'm sure we'll talk about a bit, like you already pointed out, George, but Ryan, Clark, Young, Chapman to extent should all have field days when it comes to possessions, marking, all that stuff from the Dogs game style we've seen this year. And to be honest, Freo is at its best when it can get its defensive game going. And I think that chip-to-chip style really lets them set up and play defensively how they want to. So I think stylistically, they actually hold a pretty good advantage over the Dogs. It was, a 17-point win last time. That was at the Docklands, and now over out west, unless that's also at the G.
The GMHBA.
I think the only thing that I'm a little bit worried about for Freo is just they still haven't really figured out how the Fife, Brody, all that combination works. And I don't like playing Fife in the forward line, and we've seen him in finals not be the most accurate in front of goal. But he also doesn't seem to be in good enough nick to be playing him in the midfield.
He wouldn't be best 22 as a midfielder, would he?
Yeah, it's a really weird situation, and that's the one thing I don't love about Freo at the moment. And I think that selection committees is going to be tough. Dogs have been really disappointing the last month. They've had a lot of their players back, and it's almost been if Bont hasn't stood up and done some miraculous stuff, then they're just not in the game. Dunkley's been inconsistent. McRae's dropped off pretty heavily. Baslenka hasn't been as good as he was earlier in the year. English has fallen off a bit as well. Really, the only player I can think of that's actually doing better than they were at the start of the year is like Ed Richards, and it feels like almost everyone else is in as good or worse form, and it's been like that for a while now. They barely got over the Hawks on the weekend, and they've had a few other games like that where they just, I mean, they got yeah. So for me, it's Freo, but I am worried that they do something like turn up how they did against Melbourne in round 20. I don't know. I don't know if it's a big stage getting to what it is, but yeah, I don't know. I've still got Freo in this one. Anna, what about yourself?
Yeah, I think Dunkley's probably the one that's been really good the last 2 or 3 weeks since actually getting back into the midfield. So they got to persist with that. You'd hope. I got Freo as well. The home factor for me, I just go with them. Obviously, Dogs can definitely get them, and you know, I think it's what's the first final for Freo in 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of guys in that side.
Longer than that, 2015 they last played finals.
Oh shit! So it's about 5 or 6. So there's a lot of guys in that team that haven't played a final. So like that does come into it. Watch my team lose 3 in a row, and trust me, until like you've had those experiences, if it's close, late, stuff like that. The Dogs guys have, you know, most of them won a flag. They were in the granny last year, so probably a lot of them have played deep. That experience can always help. But I'll go for Freo. Quickly, I guess we'll give a flag tip. I think we gave one last week as well. But for me, I'm sticking with the Ds from here. I think they beat Sydney at the G, and then I think that side of the draw just helps them. They won't leave Melbourne. They'll get, you know, your Freo or Dogs at the G, and then obviously grand final at the G in front of their fans, which they missed last year. So for me, it's them. I think just I saw enough of them last week to see it start clicking. Obviously, the forward line is always a bit of a question mark, sort of the tall forwards. But, you know, maybe Tom McDonald gets fit in a couple of weeks and can have an impact. JD, what you sticking? I think, who did you go last week? Sticking with what you went with? I think you said the Ds as well, maybe.
For finals, I think I had Cats.
Just for the flag? Yeah.
Yeah.
George?
Got to go the Dogs. I think I had a.
They did it again.
I think the winner of Sydney and I think the winner of Sydney and Melbourne. I kind of want to tip Sydney, even though I said to tip Melbourne, but I think the winner of Sydney and Melbourne. I don't know. Say Melbourne.
Yeah, I think I said it, and I read an article on it today. It just is the biggest game to shape the finals, really, just because of the benefits you get on that side of the draw, and for the Ds, like I said, they don't leave Melbourne if they win. So, yeah. All right, we'll get on to the fun part for us, and what you know gives keen interest or some sort of interest to the fantasy itch during the finals. So, Whereas Magic, kind enough to set up a competition that anyone can play, free to play. And it's just fantasy pretty much over the finals. It's pretty much like a free hit, if anyone knows that from FPL. It's just a fresh squad every week. But it also will total it over the finals period to whoever is leading at the end. But there's also prizes weekly, Selby said as well last week. So pretty much just a 4-week thing, bit of fun. 22 players, which is 18 on the field, and then you get sort of 4 as backup in case of any injuries. 7 defenders. It is where is my thing? 7 defenders, 6 on the field, 6 midfielders, 5 on the field. 1 ruck and 6 forwards. For the week 1, which is this week, we'll talk about the other weeks next week. But 3 players from each team. There's no salary cap, so that's nice. Just pick whoever you think will be the highest scorers. Injury sub. So this is a good little one. Imagine if this was in Supercoach. He's got it. If your player plays less than 40% of game time, and they're subbed out, then you get an interchange player from that position. So it's a nice little addition to stop copping a poor score. And then of course captains and the scoring is fantasy. So I think I'll get George's team up first. He's been putting a lot of effort into this one all week. What are your thoughts, mate? What have you gone for and reasoning?
Well, the finals is upon us, and the finals needs big moments, and you need to perform at your best. And to perform at your best, you need Manscaped. So Manscaped, the lawnmower 4.0, I'm taking it with me all the way into the hills wherever I am. I still don't know where I am, but you get a carry bag to take with you. You get all your cream and all that to take with you. So I've brought it over. I'm excited. I'm going to use it after this, actually. So in a bit of peace and quiet. So Manscaped, peak performance, finals, why not? get yourself a Manscaped using the code FTTV for 20% off. I know, boys, when you guys go away, I'm sure you guys bring it with you wherever you go.
Yeah, when I can get away, absolutely end of the year. That'll be the first thing packed, mate. The first thing packed.
Father's Day is upon us, I think September sometime. So that is the easiest.
Mate, it's this weekend coming up.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah. If you haven't ordered it, it's now. You should be loading up the tab and getting on using code FTTV now.
Look, I'm
it is
sure,
on Sunday this week.
I'm sure your old man will be all right if it comes late, so he'll be all right.
We've been warning you all month. Get onto it. It's coming.
It's just an easy gift.
Sorted. It is.
Yeah.
It's done. Pick the stuff that you think your dad will like, or at least have a laugh at, and just get it in there. Code FTTV.
So my finals team. Thanks for the outro, JD. As I
just quickly before you go, I forgot to mention it's defenders. Like it's not the exact same as Supercoach and fantasy positions. He's put defenders as defenders. You know, someone like a Jaden Shorts in the midfield I saw, and then the forwards are just pure forwards. You know, no one that's sort of rolling through the midfield as well.
This
to make it a little bit more interesting.
Very hard. If you haven't looked at who you have to pick of, the cupboards are bare.
Especially in the
some of these.
line.
Some of these picks you're going to look at and go, really? And then when you look at the list, you're like, yeah, they're actually the best option by a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys have played DFS before. I tried it once and lost my money, and it was the last time I'm doing that because it's very, very hard to pick players on a day. It's nearly impossible.
Yeah.
So
you're just getting beaten by algorithms.
With I think with these, there's a few good matchups to look at. And one thing for people that play Supercoach and not fantasy, I do encourage people to play both. I encourage JD to play, and he got himself a hat. So you should. I think no, Clay. He had a good year, better than me in fantasy. But the whole point is you learn more and you get another chance at playing fantasy. Your Supercoach is going crap. You still got fantasy, and plus I think you learn a bit more about the game. So I think with fantasy, like they say, you know, you get your plus sixes, so you kick, mark, and tackles are worth so much. So they're probably the most important stats you need. So you look in the back line. Well, we just saw the Hawks. We saw Sicily and Ryan score like 150 fantasy on the Dogs. So I would be loading up on Fremantle defenders. I think that's pretty obvious. So at least Clark and Hayden Young, I think they'll see a lot of the ball and they'll have room to kick mark. So they're in my defense. I can barely actually see my team, but who have I got there? So Jake Lloyd. I have no Tom Stewart. Just overrated.
Yeah, you just want to do that, don't you?
And then
you got Jake Lloyd and the two Freo
right.
defenders, and then Nick Dacos. And Eddie Richards probably the one, George. Why'd you go him?
I looked at no Stewart. I'm like, man, the hater is ringing through. Like, just straight out hater.
Well, he hasn't been that good. We brought him in fantasy, and that was not a good move for them last month. But anyway, so I like
that one tag game, right? He was okay out of that, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Is everyone over-exaggerating it?
He was still pretty subpar, but against some of the other options here.
Yeah, he wasn't dropping
like
150. Yeah. Sorry.
So Ed Richards. I brought in Dale in fantasy in Supercoach for Hewitt for the last month, and I just noticed Ed Richards taking so much more responsibility. And as you said, JD, I think, or Anna before, his last three is 90 average. So he's actually doing pretty well. So I can't remember if he took kick-ins or not. I reckon he has.
I was about to get that up.
But yeah, he's taken more responsibility at defense. You can see he's grown in a lot of confidence, and he's a better defender than Dale and Daniel. So I think he's taken a bit more responsibility. So I like him as a pick. I don't mind Dale. And we see in finals, was it the grand final? They looked for Caleb Daniel pretty much for the entire game. It's kind of old. I don't want to say bad habits, but yeah, they just relied a bit too heavily on Daniel in the first half of the grand final last year. So he could be a pick as well. But yeah, midfield, I just gone for the big dogs, but I've got Angus Brayshaw. Angus Brayshaw. I think Petrarca, it's a big game. Petrarca's going to do well, but his Supercoach, he's much better for Supercoach than fantasy at the moment because he's been playing a fair bit at half forward because they have Angus Brayshaw in the guts, Jack Viney, and Clary Oliver. So that means Petrarca's CBAs have dropped a bit. And I do think they need him up forward. I think, last when they needed to make top four, kick 2 goals or something. But yeah, very inaccurate from a goal. So I don't love the Petrarca pick, although, you never know. But the role is not as good as what it could be for him. So I've gone Gus Brayshaw, a bit of a pod. Him or McLuggage. McLuggage got the nice matchup on the Tigers. So
I did have Hugh in my team, but I took him out.
So yeah, I don't mind Huey. In the rucks, I think I've got Max Gawn there, just pretty self-explanatory. Don't know how Tim English will go against Freo. And then, Sean Darcy has actually been pretty good. If he's named with Meek, you don't touch him. But Darcy finished the year strongly, and I didn't have him in Supercoach, and thank God Meek came in the last round because he would have put another 50 points on me, I think. And then the forward line is King Isaac has got to be in there. Gordon's plays a bit up the ground, so I like him. Shea in a big game. Shea gets CBAs. I was checking that out. He's getting like 50%, but he doesn't score very well.
No, he doesn't. He's not a high possession, but he's a good first possession player. He gets a lot of centre clearances, but he's never going to get your 30s. But I was about to say, Dusty back probably sits more forward. You would say maybe Shea plays more midfield, so I don't mind it.
Okay. Dusty, I'm assuming, is mid only. I haven't actually checked.
Oh, yeah, I didn't see him either, but I wouldn't pick him. But
Yeah.
Because he's underdone, you'd assume he wouldn't play heavy midfield minutes.
I think it's mid only. I checked earlier. Yeah.
So then I've got Hawkins over Jezza. Just Jezza off the hamstring. Probably fine, but just don't like it. And then Zach Bailey. Well, Tom Hawkins, he can get a few hit outs. He can, kick the ball out of forward 50 stoppages. So I do not mind Tom Hawkins given the pull of plays that we got. And then Zach Bailey, see if he plays a bit of mid, but I think, he's a big game player, so I like him. And it's a team.
And Lynch as well. So, and then, you just pick 4 interchange one from each position just in case of any early injuries.
Not too worried about interchange. Just quickly, Tom Lynch, what's his issue again?
It was a groin, but I think he's totally fine. 100% set to play. So.
100%? Okay.
Yeah, he's fine. But you never know. He might be off early with the sub. He subbed twice early this year, so you might be getting Jezza. Who knows? I hope not. JD, this is your team, unless you had something to say about George.
No, I was going to say, did you mention at the top that you're only allowed to pick 3 players from a side?
Yes,
because that is one of the things that makes this really hard, because you kind of just want to load up on teams that you think are going to win, especially favorites.
Yes.
But I can only load up on so many cats, or you want to load up on teams that play like sides that leak. But anyway, just not to be.
Yeah, and that includes the bench too, right? So you
exactly.
Not that that's super important, but you can't have
just put throwaways on the bench. I think
correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the high upside so there is one strategy here, which is stacking players that are injury prone. So for what you can see here, I've got Vlosten and Rioli. So if Vlosten gets injured early and goes off, then Rioli would take the field spot for him and would benefit from Vlosten not playing. So I think there's a few stacks that you can use like that. Like at Brisbane, you could use Rich and Coleman, I think, is another strategy I'd look at if you weren't planning to use Brisbane line players elsewhere. There's a few nice little options. You could even do it with the Dogs if like a Dale and Daniel or something like that. So you put so that I think that is one way you can use this. The only problem is that if someone else on that line is the one that gets injured, and then you've kind of like playing 2 suboptimal picks, which would be, say, I don't know, Dacos gets injured early, then Rioli comes on, and maybe I don't want to play Rioli and Vlosten. But all right, running through the side. So I think Stewart and Lloyd are 2 of the more obvious picks for mine in this one. I think not having Stewart is a crime. Scored well against Collingwood last time. They leak points. I think he's going to have a bit of a field day. The only thing that worries me a little bit is his more recent form, but yeah. And then Lloyd, I think Melbourne give up a lot of marks to defenders as well, or just like a lot of points in the back half to defenders. So Lloyd is just one of the better picks. Freo, we've already talked about against the Dogs. I think you can load up there. So like I've picked Young and Ryan. I don't hate the other option. Why am I blanking on it?
Chapman or
not Chapman? Third option.
Jordan Clark.
Clark, yes, Clark. I think is an all right pick as well. And then Dacos, I mean, George's already talked about it. Just feels like he has a little bit of big game about him. So not going to get tagged by the Cats, which has been the big worry for him. A little bit the same with Stewart. So yep, load him up. And then Vlosten here, I could see myself like changing on this. It's probably the one that I picked last in the defense, but obviously shown that really high scoring ceiling this year. It points throughout the playing behind the ball kind of loose. If you're looking to win the weekly or even overall 120 or something like that is possible out of Vlosten, and some of the other options I've got here, I just don't see that being the case. Someone like Ed Richards, for example, I think is a great pick, but doesn't necessarily have the upside that a Vlosten does. And then, I stacked him with Rioli. I'm not sure if that's the right move either, but it made sense in my mind. He's high injury risk, and then if he does get injured early, then Rioli comes on. In the midfield, Max Gorn Ruck, and I think all of us will have Max Gorn Ruck. I'd be surprised if Eno went someone different. And then midfield, I think a lot of these picks are quite similar to George's, although I don't think you had Brayshaw. You had the other Brayshaw, right?
Yeah.
I had Gus. I don't like the. I think dogs. Yeah. Should be fine.
I mean, Brayshaw went 109 on them in round 21. And I think most importantly, he won't get tagged. That's when we've seen Brayshaw really drop some bad games. I think otherwise he's pretty safe. So I quite like him. And I couldn't see myself running another Freo player anywhere else, really. Oliver, I think, is just a lock. He's been the best player all year. Big game player as well. Mills, I'm not entirely sure about. And then Richmond, as we know, kind of give up points to mids. And Neil and McCluggage shared top scoring against them last time, each with 100, which is on the lower side. So hopefully get a little bit more out of them this time. But those seem like decent picks. I think the bigger mission at the moment is any of the Dogs mids. Baslenka, Dunkley, Bont, McRae. And I don't hate them as picks. I just really struggle to know which one or which ones are going to go off against Freo, and I'm worried I'll get stuck with the bad ones, if that makes sense.
Dunkley and Marcus, they're my two. I think Baz is in limited training at the moment. I just saw that in the news before. And then McRae's CBAs are down, and he's still scoring not the bad for Supercoach, but his fantasy scoring's been, I think, 5 round of 90 or something. But you can always bounce back.
McRae's not in consideration at all. And you can see, I've got Dunkley on the bench. He's probably the one that I'm most heavily considering. And then, English is the backup ruck. But I don't... if I had another Freo pick, I could see myself doing Darcy here. Nankervis, I think you had George. I don't hate that as an option either. All right, and then in the forward line, cupboards are bare. The one that I don't have, which I kind of wish I had, was Lynch. For some of the reasons we've talked about. And I could see myself moving this around to get him in. But Heaney, I think you kind of just have to pick. Bolton, I think you kind of have to pick. Bolton's the closest we've got to an actual midfielder playing in the forward line, probably followed by Heaney. And then, I think the only one that I've picked that's kind of left field is Stengel, and that's probably the one that I'd look at replacing with Lynch, maybe. What differences do you have in the forward line, George? I don't think you had Jackson either, did you?
I probably should pick Jackson. I had Goulden. Do you have Bailey?
He has Bailey.
Yeah, I've got Bailey, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Goulden, yeah. Yeah, I don't mind Goulden. I just worry about if they get smashed by Melbourne and he's playing forward of the ball, whether or not he scores well enough.
Yeah.
I think Jackson's probably a smarter pick.
Which is I like with Goulden. He gets around 20 touches most weeks now. But, yeah.
I'll go Errol, back him in. Jackson's playing with guilt of leaving, so see how we go.
Joe's mental analysis.
All right. And then, Norton on the bench, but I'm not sure I love that as an option.
You can change that whenever.
Yeah, exactly.
There isn't great options, though, is there? All right. Oh, captain. I didn't know you guys, because you got a captain as well, don't you? Who's yours, George?
Didn't know we had a captain. I think Lockie against the Tigers.
Yeah, fair enough. JD, who's yours on Clary at the moment? But
yeah, I was going to go Clary. He's safe. But Gawn absolutely destroyed the Swans last time. So Gawn is maybe someone I'll consider, especially high upside captain option. And I had the VC on Brayshaw, but I honestly hadn't thought about it too much. Neil's probably a better selection there.
Yep, fair enough. All right, boys, now it's time to help me because I don't know too much about fantasy, but I've given it my best.
Same thing, man. It's not much difference.
No, I know, but you might see anything. To be honest, I think I've got Bailey Smith in there. That's probably one I'll change, actually, to maybe Bont. So Stewart, I just think you have to pick him. He's against the Pies, I think he's just going to get a lot of touches. Voston, I've got the same thing there as you. I think, do you have Voston? George's not sure, but
No.
on
It
kickouts,
was me.
I
It
think
was me. Yeah.
it could be a shootout. Might get a lot of easy touches. Bailey Dale, I've gone back with him. I looked at the kickouts before. It is shared between him and Daniel, but he's still taken the majority. While it's not the most or a large majority, it's still more than the others. Dacos as well, Luke Ryan as well, and then Daniel Rich. So maybe another Freo defender if we're all thinking that they might score well in there. I could find a room for Hayden Young, but yeah, maybe something to think about. Midfield, pretty similar to you guys. Gone.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
No Jake Lloyd. Is it just because you want to use 3 swans elsewhere?
Yes. I do have 3 swans elsewhere.
He hates Jake Lloyd.
No, should I be picking him? What is he? Is it a super lock? Has he been scoring super well in fantasy? I don't know. I haven't taken much notice.
Back half of the year, he's been okay, 90-ish,
Yeah,
low 90s.
Like, is he super required or?
I don't know. He's probably not super required, but it's probably the same level of question mark for me as Stewart, which is the form hasn't been amazing, but at least he's kind of one of the more proven defenders in a reasonable matchup.
Yeah, I think because I've got Mills, right? So
yeah, but his 3-round average is 91, which I think is tied with Ryan for the most over the last 3.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, it's because gone in the ruck, obviously Clary, but it's Mills is who I've got. Who I don't know. He just seems to dominate in this format, and I know he's been all over the place in the second half of the year as far as where he's been playing, what he's been doing. Wing defense, but a big game like this, you'd expect him to be in the midfield more. Dunks, I think, is just in the form he's in. I think he's in really good form the last 2 or 3 weeks. He got his midfield spot back. Neil, no brainer. I think he's who my captain is. And then Baz, I didn't realise Baz is a bit underdone. And to be honest, he has been a bit underwhelming, but not in this format, though. Yes, in my super coach team, but he's actually still been okay in fantasy, right? So
I think maybe back half of the year, he's been average.
He's been tagged, Maybe change the bond. Big time.
I wouldn't pick Baz just because of missing training and stuff.
Yep, I didn't know that. Heaney and Errol, I think they're just because of what we saw with the forward options, they're the sort of the ones that you trust probably the most, to be honest. And then I've gone the double Geelong key forwards. I don't know, forecasting a big win maybe, and they both kick bags. I guess it's kind of what you got to try and do if you want to win the weekly in these things. Is, as JD was saying, sort of load up on the teams you think will win. So I guess that's the strategy here. And then I got Bolton. I think is not a no-brainer, but the next, one of the only other good options, and Bailey as well. And then the bench is just, again, whoever. I didn't really think too much about that. Got Brayshaw there and Darcy Cameron, but I doubt they're going to be required. So, yeah, I think I'll change Baz, and then it's whether or not I get Jake Lloyd in, maybe. Meaning that I'll have to probably swap Mills. So, bit of fun, boys. We'll have a little bit of competition. You can't make leagues in this, right? So we'll just next week see what we scored, and then see who wins at the end of the finals. Anything else to add, boys? What are you looking forward to it? Looking forward to the weekend? The dog's still barking.
George finally got the dog in him. Finally got the dog.
Every time you cross to me, the dogs seem to say calling. So, it could be the dogs here. I don't know, but probably not. I think not much else to add. I think pick the players you like. Pick the players with good matchups and have fun. So
that's what it's all about, having a bit of fun and supporting the community as well. I mean, this is really a community-driven initiative with obviously Morris Magic leading it. So getting behind it, having a bit of fun, all about it.
Beautiful. So I don't think the prizes. I think there's as I said, prize for each week, and then first, second, and third after the full 4 weeks as well. So get amongst it. I'll link it, or you'll see it across Twitter. Finals Fantasy is the Twitter handle, but you'll find all the details there.
Takes like a minute to make, not even sign up, and so quick. So might as well just do it.
I'll be quite honest. I spent 3 minutes probably making that team, so I'll change Baz and captaincy on Neil. right, boys. Good to see you. Good to see you. Keen for some footy. Seriously.
I did not
think
know what to do with myself on Saturday. It was shocking.
Did you watch any sport or?
I watched AFLW, fired up a few games of league standard, but I don't know. It just felt weird. It's like gonna be a long off season, but time to find a new hobby. I think.
Yeah, try like finding your girlfriend or something. You might like it.
Football is Supercoach is the priority, mate.
Yeah, they get in the way. To be fair, when the regular season comes around, you'll be regretting the decision.
What about the FPL, George? Any more -12s?
Oh, not that again. No, I did good. I didn't trade. I did very well.
Good.
Held my nerve. I think I'm ranked about 3 or 4 mil. And what is it? 8 million players. So it is
early, it's
struggle
okay.
town. Haaland with the R has been doing really good for me since doing that. Although Hayne got the double. Kane, I don't know what he scored, but he must have been all right.
Yeah, but he missed the pen, mate. I was spewing.
Oh, do you lose points for that?
You do, yeah, you do.
Oh, shit.
First penalties missed in 4 years as well.
I think
awesome.
I do love just playing other fantasies. Kind of fills the void a bit. For me, I like NFL Sports Tech. Me and 2,000 people that play that. That's sort of fun. And then FBL kind of keep tabs on that a bit. And AFLW fantasy, I had a go at that. I think I scored on par, so not great, but yeah, just other fantasies to fill the void and less stress. Kind of just have a bit of fun.
Yeah.
So keep busy with that for now.
Just a couple other things. There's a few guys been asking for links for the website in the chat. I've tried posting it, but I'm not sure if they're actually going through or not, and maybe getting picked up. But it's finalsfootyfantasy.com.au. So that's finalsfootyfantasy.com.au. Otherwise, if you go to Moro's Magic on Twitter, or I think even like our Twitter might have the link on it as well. So you can look at either of those. There you go. Oh,
I think I just posted it then. So.
Yeah, well done. Yeah, perfect. And then one other thing is a shout out to Luca, who took out the Discord Survivor for the year, which I think is a one and done format. So big shout out to Big Seven, one of the mods who organized and ran that all year. It's basically like a fun little Survivor competition for the Discord for the entirety of the year. People voting each other out, getting immunities based on what you score in Supercoach. It was a lot of fun, and it actually generated so much more drama than I ever could have thought. I didn't think people would get so emotionally invested in fake Discord Survivor. But yeah, props to Luca and the Merry Men for taking out the title this year, and big thank you to Big Seven for running it. I think he was regretting starting it after about week 4 and managed to finish the year out strong. So very appreciative of the people that bring the great stuff to the community.
Yeah, just quickly, people were doing some serious dummy spitting over that. Like,
for me, I can't believe it.
People were threatening to quit the server, and like, Jesus.
People
there were big conspiracy runnings. Yeah, big conspiracies.
Yeah.
I think I got
fair enough.
It was a bit of fun.
A lot of people involved. So
I think people will be keen for it next year. So if you like that, come join the Discord.
Right. If you want the real conspiracy, as I got eliminated without a vote being cast against me, that is some BS. So I mean, if you play Survivor, you just know that's not the case. So anyway, rigged against me, but we move.
Yeah, join the Discord anyway though, because FPL there's a lot of discussion there. NFL starts in less than 10 days. It's Friday week, which we're all keen for, and then of course just the finals in general. And George is already starting his Supercoach 2023 research, so he's posting stuff.
Honestly,
any videos coming, mate?
Myself. I've got this house to myself. Usually it's like annoying to do videos with. I could live with the parents, but it can be a bit annoying. But I've got this house to myself. I can just record on my phone. I gotta do part 2 of underpriced players.
There we go.
Speaking about Matt Crouch, I don't think I talked about him.
Article released today, right? So
Connor McKenna,
300k. Will Phillips 200 mid forward. What was another one? Oscar Allen 240 as a forward, but
nah.
I think he's playing a bit of ruck or something.
Honestly, the game's shifted just towards like you need to find value, and you need to nail the value. Like you could get away in previous years of not completely nailing the value, but with the more trades, it's just the price that figure is so important now. So yeah, see how we go over preseason, but definitely value need to nail that for sure. Otherwise, it's an uphill battle, as we knew this year.
All right, one question before we go. Tim Torano at the Tigers 2023. Is he in your side? Round
No.
one? No. JD?
Is Dunkley on my side round one?
No,
In midfield
Torano
only. Oh, Torano?
at Richmond.
Yes.
Yep. I'll say yes.
Have you owned Taranto before? Oh, you owned him this year.
Yeah.
Have you owned it? He's
In
butcher, man.
fantasy.
Fantasy
No, I
in
know.
first
Fantasy.
pick.
In
I know he
fantasy.
is. I know
Oh,
he is.
Supercoach is a
yeah.
nightmare.
But he's
don't
never
know.
really had a full midfield role, right? They've always been a lot of rotations there.
Oh. I do worry about him playing in Richmond's game plan, which isn't the most friendly for
Yeah, that's
Supercoach
fair.
and fantasy. But he
Selby
is a
did say
bit
that
of a
last
pig.
week.
Yeah.
Like, we just don't play that high possession game. But there's always room for one. Like, Prestia still gets his when he's fit.
He's in 90s somewhere, I think.
In fantasy, yeah.
Or Supercoach, I think. I don't know.
Oh, it's Supercoach. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, 90s somewhere.
Yeah, he's quite a butcher, though, too, right? So, same as Torano. Yeah, I got to see what the other options are. I think it's going to be quite a few, though, right? Himmelberg will be forward defender.
Rosie Butters Dunks will be my three
Yeah,
for the
there'll be a lot of
time
options, though. I guess that plays a part. All right, we've done enough, boys. Let's jump off. Looking forward to the footy. I don't like Thursday night, I'll be honest, for my team. My mate's got footy training. Who's my mate who goes for Richmond. We can't even watch it together. So look, Thursday footy. I don't know about for finals. I don't mind it during the season, but anyway, I'll obviously still be watching and cheering the boys on, and then the rest of the weekend should be good after that, hopefully. So enjoy the week, boys. We'll chat again Monday. See who scored the most points
Yeah,
in
let's do
the
it.
finals fantasy. All right, thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you next week.